Hello and welcome to NoobAquatics. My name is Matthew. So a little bit about us, just so that you can get used to who we are, and we'll take a quick tour of our fish room here so that you can see the kind of fish that we keep. Now, my name is Matthew. Like I said, we live in Ohio. My wife and my 3 kids, which they're outside playing right now, we take care of our fish room. Now, our fish room includes a 75-gallon South American tank with some other inhabitants, a 40-gallon guppy tank with some some other inhabitants such as harlequin rasbors and pygmy corridors, habrosus corridors, that type of thing. Even a beta in there with our guppies, fancy guppies. And then we have some grow out tanks. So we have a grow out tank for our electric blue acara fry. We have a grow out tank for mystery snails. We also have a pea puffer tank with it's 29 gallons. It's got 6 pea puffers in there, so teeny tiny little puffers, and they're really cute. Every time we walk by the tank, don't matter what it is, if I'm recording, they like to get in the picture and everything. So they're very aware of who's there. And then of course we got the pea puffer food tank, so their snails are growing and multiplying in their own separate tank by themselves. We even have a brine shrimp grow out tank because some of our fish are a little bit bigger. We want to make sure that they get bigger brine shrimp instead of the little baby, so they have something more to chase. And then we got the 3 tanks in the back room. So in the back rooms, there are 3 10-gallon tanks back there for all of our kids. They each have their own tank to take care of, so it helps them to have responsibilities and stuff like that. So 2 of the kids got betas, and we'll soon have tetras in there with the betas. And then the other one's got what has he got in there? He's got cherry barbs in there with his blue ram, so a German blue ram, and it's a beautiful male German blue ram back there. Now about us, recently we just got into freshwater fish keeping. Me personally though, I used to be a saltwater keeper, and I kept saltwater fish for years before I met my wife, and that was 17 years ago. So I had kept saltwater fish such as sharks, puffers, all sorts of things. And near the end, right before I met my wife, I was a truck driver, and I actually worked for a pet store delivering fish all across the United States to places like Walmart and small local fish stores in Illinois, that type of thing. Kids are upset, as you can hear. So yeah, so I kept saltwater fish and went away for a week. And there's my wife in the background there. Went away for a week, and when I came back, everything in all my fish tanks, they were dead. So what had happened? In one of my previous videos, I already mentioned that we failed at keeping the fish because of not properly taking care of them whenever we went on vacation. Now what happened was it my fault? Yes and no. Back in the day, they didn't really make a lot of hang on the back filters that had the pump inside the aquarium. And because of that, what happened was when the power went out, which went out twice while I was gone after contacting the utility company where I lived, none of the hang on the back filters came back on. So basically what you have to do is, on some of them, you actually have to prime them. You have to pour water into the back of it if the power goes out. And that didn't happen. I wasn't there, and it went out the second day that I was gone, and they had no oxygen, no air for a whole 6 days. And when I came back, everything was dead. There was only one fish in there that was alive. It ended up dying 2 days later. It was a what was it? It was a damsel. It was a blue-yellow damsel, and that really made me want to quit. So I got rid of all my fish tanks and decided I was going to keep lizards and snakes and stuff like that, but my wife didn't like any of them. So just so you know, tokay geckos are mean geckos. Not to me. I mean, yeah, they bit my finger as I was cleaning their tank, and I'd be cleaning their tank they were in while it was literally just dragging around the tank and it was hanging onto my hand. Well, my wife didn't like those, so I got rid of them. So for a long time, we didn't have any fish tanks, and I watched several videos, lots of them. So Aquarium Co-op, I also watched KG Tropicals, who are some other ones? Caveman Aquatics, and several. Those are my favorites. So Caveman Aquatics, KG Tropicals, and Aquarium Co-op. All the videos, they're my favorite videos to watch. They have some of the deepest knowledge there in the freshwater aquarium hobby, so I go to them for a lot of my go-to stuff. Well, I went back to them, learned a lot of stuff, did my own research outside of YouTube, because trust me, you need to. They don't always give you all the information. You can always ask them questions, but you still need to research on your own. So yeah, so that's what I did. So I finally got the courage and got back into the aquarium hobby, and I haven't looked back since. And this was about a year ago. So we went full blown in. So we have 10 tanks in the house. We breed our own fish. We sell our own fish. We have our own website, NoobAquatics.com. Right now, there's not many things for sale on there because, like I said, we did just start. So, and it's a long haul hobby. You don't just automatically buy a fish and expect to start selling them the next week. So we have a lot of fish growing out. So we'll soon be selling guppies. So half black, German white tuxedo guppies, some red dragons, that type of thing. And we'll be selling them in groups, or we'll be selling them in pairs. It doesn't matter. We'll sell them every way and every which way and out. So the main thing we got into this hobby is to have fun. We didn't get into it to make a large dollar or anything like that. So if we sell something, great. Our goal is to have fun, learn about the fish that we have our fish enjoy us as well as we enjoy the fish. How do you know your fish are enjoying you? When you walk by the tank, they come over and they're excited to see you. That's how you know. So our puffers, they are happy to see us every time. My cichlids, my epistogrammas that I have, they're happy to see me every time. Even my pencil fish that I have in there with my epistogrammas are happy to see us every time we get over to the tank. And I'll tell you one thing about pencil fish: if you got freckles on your skin like I do, they will bite you. So I just learned that the other day, is that pencil fish, if they see a dot, they will try to bite it, and they have tried to bite the freckles on my skin. They haven't tried to bite the tattoos, but they have tried to bite the freckles, which is funny, and it almost feels like they got little teeth, because it doesn't feel very good. It feels like someone's pinching with fingernails. But that's beside the fact. I've had plenty of fish try to bite me. And the one fish I was worried about biting me was the puffer. They didn't bite me. But yeah, so we got back in the hobby and went full blown in. We got our kids involved in it, and we love it so far. We grow plants. We have issues just like anybody else. The reason why we named our website, our YouTube channel, NoobAquatics, is because there is a lot of new people to the hobby out there. And it's always good to hear from someone that is starting up, the tricks that they've learned, how they are staying afloat, what they've made mistakes at, and how they are continuing to move forward in the hobby without getting overwhelmed or dragged down. So yeah, we'll go over lots of things with NoobAquatics. I'll continue to upload videos. I can't say I'm going to be uploading videos at a constant or a current schedule, but keep an eye out. We'll upload new ones. We got several unboxing videos coming out. I'll end up at one point having my kids talk about their tanks, so I'm going to have them research the fish that they have, and I'll ask them questions, kind of like a question and answer thing, and I'll post that on there. So I think they'll have a good time doing that. But yeah, so enjoy our channel here at YouTube. Take a look at our website. Eventually here in the future, around August or so, we'll start having some fish for sale. We currently sell snails online at Aquabid and on eBay, and we've sold quite a bit of them, and people are pretty happy with the mystery snails that we have. And of course, take a look at our other videos. Well, now that we've introduced who we are, let's get into taking a tour of our fish room. We're going to start out with the 75-gallon tank. So this is our 75-gallon South American tank. It does have fish in there that are not South American, and those are these guys right here. These flagfish. They were just, I guess you can say, residents from a previous tank, so we just kind of kept them in there. And we have one random guppy in there with a broken back, but he seems to be doing pretty well. Other than that, you'll see the epistos are in there. If you look closely, they're really small right now. You got one in this episto hut right there, poking her head in. I mean, it's hard to see her because she's inside the episto hut. Let's see here. They like to hide quite a bit. They're still pretty small. They're still babies. You see you got the pothos growing over the side there. Really far over the side here. It just sprouted up pretty well. Wisteria on the right, some sword plants in there, and this right here is an Apoptogenton, or however you say that, but we moved it from another tank because it was getting eaten by the snails. Some Anacharis right here, some Rotala, not sure what kind though, we got it free. That's some Hygro right there, I can't remember the kind, but it is Hygrophilia. Same thing there, that's Hygro Blue. Christmas Moss, that's a Wendiddy, so a Crypt Red. That's Bacopa. Carolinia, not the other one. Got some Java Moss growing right here, doing really well. Oh, there's one of the Apistos in the back there. There's this one sticking her head out. She's shy though. There's another one right there. But yeah, so this is our South American tank with some guests, I guess you can say. It's our limestone or Texas Holy Rock in there. That's helping keep the pH stable. I have in 3 different kinds of substrate here. So a base layer with lava rock and some fine sand and some Seachem substrate that's in here as well. So the planted substrate by, or not Seachem, by Carib Sea Eco Complete, and as you can see, some of it's on the top here, and then the rest of it is black diamond sand, all on the top. There's probably a good, I don't know, in the front here about 2.5 inches of substrate, but in the back it's closer to 5 to 6 inches in the back. It kind of goes at an angle, which you can see here as it's got a lift. So yep, so that's what this tank is here. Lots of fish in there that are really small, so it makes it look, if you stand far enough back, makes it look like just plants, but yeah. So this is our 75 South American tank. This right here is our 40-gallon breeder guppy tank with and other inhabitants. So it has emerald rasboras in there, harlequin rasboras, has a beta, and then of course several guppies and mystery snails, red and blue Neocaridinian shrimp. Of course it's growing pothos on the top as well, but this one's growing up. As you can see, it's getting really long. Alright, we're about to change this pump out to one of the new ones that they have, because it's sucking from the bottom and we want it to pull from the sides. That is a beta hut we bought off of Etsy. The snails and shrimp like it a lot more than the beta does. Here's the beta. Front and center, he likes getting in the camera. So that's Fiji. Alright, here's some of our guppies. This one has gotten into a fight with some of the females and males, so he got a little beat up on his tail since it was super long. As you can see, the females chasing him. Oh, and just ripped off part of his tail again. He's pretty mean, so he's getting what he deserved. When he first got in there, he was dishing out the terror and beating up all the males and ripping their fins off, and now it's coming back on him. So what goes around comes around, even in a fish tank, right? Kind of a bummer though, but we do have a lot of his babies in one of our grow out tanks. So, but yeah, so here we got Java moss growing on the tree. I don't know if you see that there, growing on the tree up there. We got some Anubias Nana Petite right there, some regular Anubias right there, Anacharis right there, Valsinaria, that's Italian Valsinaria. This right here is And if it'll focus, this is pearlweed right here. All right, pearlweed there. We got some Christmas moss there, Christmas moss here, Java moss growing probably in several different places here. We got wisteria right there. That's a big forest of wisteria. And then the back, you can't really see it very well, but in the back there, there's some hygro. There's some bacopa back there growing. And then of course in the back here, we also have some limestone to help balance the pH. Same thing here, we got 3 layers of substrate as well. Not as thick though. This is mostly about 2 to 3 inches thick all the way back, so no lava rock in this one. But yeah, so that's our 40-gallon guppy tank. Alright, so let's continue our tour of the fish room. Alright, so over here you'll see this is one of our grow out tanks. On this tank here we have electric blue acaras and regular or true blue acaras in there. They're growing out really nicely. Alright, there's a bigger one right there. We call that guy Junior because of how big he is. And this tank here, this is where we throw all of our extra plants that we have. You can see they're all right here. So our clippings and stuff, we reuse them, which I recommend anybody if they have an extra tank to throw their clippings into a tank that has light. So these are actually grow lamps that you can buy off of Amazon for about 20 bucks or less. If you wait, you can get them on sale for even less. And this one here comes with 5 lights. I don't know if you see, it's got 3 down here, 2 up there. All right. So this right, and that's our Acara grow out tank. And once we sell all the Acaras in here, all right, we will make this into a grow out tank for the Pistogrammas. Now down here, this one we've had a little trouble with here recently. We had a system or a cycle crash. Not really sure 100% why. But on the cycle crash, we did some changes, and the changes were adding in the substrate, which you'll see here. Okay, so this substrate in here, as you can see it, is a mixture of argonite and black diamond blasting sand. Like I said, we use black diamond blasting sand in every single tank, mainly because of how inert it is, and you know, the fact that it's you know, black. We like the black substrates. Now if you look here, it's the first time I've ever seen one of these turn blue. So how do you combat a high level of ammonia? Well, what have we done? Yesterday we changed out water all the way to here. Today we will do the same thing, change out the water. Alright, so we're going to keep doing that, and we'll keep changing it out until this drops. And just to ensure that none of the fish look sick or unhappy, we add Seachem Complete, or not Seachem Complete, sorry, Fritz Aquatics Complete, which neutralizes ammonia and heavy metals and stuff like that, and which we recommend. We've used it for all of our tanks and continue to do it. And as you can see in here, the guppies, these are feeder guppies, and the Danios that are in here, the 5 Danios that are in here, are thriving. They're not acting sick or any different because the ammonia that is in there has been detoxified. So what's one other thing you can do? So you can also add stuff such as beneficial bacteria. So if you notice that you do something like this, where you disrupt the cycle of an aquarium, you continue to add bacteria again. So that's what we did. So we are adding bacteria in there every day, and we're going to do that same 7-day cycle until this drops back down, as well as when the ammonia levels are this high, you do a lot of water changes. So get used to that. We have some leftover plants in here, but these, if you notice, this is a hornwort and some anacarus. The guppies like it, and the snails like to eat it, unfortunately. So the snails right now, they're not moving around as much, but that's okay. This is the grow out tank. Also for the snails, we sell these, and these are the remaining snails. These are actually the B grade snails. the snails that have some damage to their shells, or yeah, so pretty much that, or they're just not very good quality. We've already sold all of the A+ quality snails, and I plan to put these on there at a much lower rate on eBay and Aquabid and sell. But these are, like I said, these are the B grade snails that are remaining. They will still grow up and still end up being really nice. So as you can see here, you got a really nice looking brown snail, but it's got some damage to the shell. The shells here have some damage. This is from pH. So whenever your pH drops suddenly and it becomes acidic, snails do not like that. So keep that in mind. And their shells do not like that. No matter how much calcium you have in here, which right now this is at 180 parts per million of calcium for the water. The KH is at 6 degrees KH. We have hard GH water, so all the levels in here are perfect. The pH is 7.2, so we got it back up, but unfortunately the damage had already been done to some of the snail's shells. Alright, so that does happen. Just know that if you own a fish room and you take care of fish, and you have them in grow out tanks, and you have way too many in your tanks, like here, like I said, these feeder guppies, they'll never stop breeding. But just know that these guys right here, these little ones, they're food for other fish. So when you pull them out of there and feed them, and the numbers go up, go down, go up, go down, that type of thing. So that's what these little baby fish are for. Unfortunately, it's a sad way to go, but I mean, what can you do? The guppies, they are the million fish. So if you don't do something with them, sell them, feed them to other fish, then how else are you going to reduce their numbers? So let's take a look at some of our other tanks. So over here, and this is a temporary setup until we can get the rack built. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to build a rack here. All right, and that rack is going to have a place for guppies on 1, 2, 3 different levels. It's going to have the babies growing out here, and we're going to separate out the males from the females. So in here, this is a temporary setup for them. Tons of babies in here. This is just a mixture of white tuxedo, so half black white tuxedos, red dragons, and some other things in there, but they're all growing out in there. And that's the guppy grow out tank. It's also got that black diamond blasting sand, but underneath this is coral. So underneath this right here, you can't see it, is crushed coral. And then of course we got some limestone in there, but we've never had any trouble with the pH in this tank, even with this many fish. So I monitor it, keep the pH, the GH, the KH, and the calcium here, and I keep the calcium levels in here pretty high as well, because of the fact that these are babies growing up. So they need their spines and stuff to have the calcium so they grow strong and they're not deformed or anything like that. So that's what I recommend too. If you have guppies, make sure they got enough calcium to keep their bones strong. Alright, so let's go look at one of the other tanks. Alright, so here you may have seen this in one of my other videos before. If not, that's fine. And here, this is our pea puffer tank. There they are. They love coming up here anytime I walk over. That's my... Is that the dominant male? Yep, so this one right here is the dominant male. Hard to see because he keeps moving. But that's the dominant male. That one right there next to him, right here, that's female. Subdominant male. Let's see, another subdominant male right here. This one right here is still pretty young. This one actually may change sexes. So it started to turn into a male, but as you can see, it's losing some of its striping. So there's a chance, which is hard to see in this video because of the lighting. Let me see if I can get a better picture. Yeah, you can see here the striping is fading away. So he may be turning into a female, mainly because of all the males in the tank, which I hope he does. And then we have one more female in here. Where is she? And looks like she's hiding, but that's okay. This is our pea puffer tank. Inside the substrate here, which you can't see, there is some black worms. So aquatic black worms are in the substrate, but you can't see them. They're actually in there, and I've seen them come out, and when they do, these puffers rip them out like spaghetti and suck them up. But they have their friends in here, which is funny. They don't attack these guys. So these are ghost shrimp. Okay, and there's plenty of them in there. I don't know if you can see, there's about 5 of them back there. Alright, and there's more and more. Oh, there's the other female right there. She's right there, hiding. Okay, and then of course I got, you know, plants growing in here. There's another ghost shrimp right there. But as you can see, they eat snails. Alright, lots of snails in here. These are all either empty shells or shells where they keep picking at, you know, because the bodies of the snails keep coming out. But they don't eat them all. So you can see there's some eggs right there, which is fine, because once the eggs hatch, these pea puffers will go around and eat the itty bitty snails, and I think it's actually easier on their mouths. So what do we plan for this tank? So what we're going to do is we're going to actually lift this light about 4 to 6 inches off of here. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So that's going to be complete once we get that light lifted. Inside there, we're going to leave it as a calm, natural environment, because the pea puffers do not like a lot of water movement. So we have a sponge filter on that side, and then homemade sponge filter on that side there. All right. So how do we keep them fed? You have to grow your own snails. You can buy your own snails and continue to buy them, but that's not practical. I recommend that you get a tank, and it doesn't have to be very big. Just get a tank and make sure that you balance out the pH, so the pH stays about 7 on these snails. So ram's horn snails or pond snails. I actually recommend pond snails. Pond snails seem to be the favorite of puffers, so I recommend those if you're going to feed pea puffers. They're smaller, they have an easier time getting them out of the shells. So this tank here, as you see here at the bottom, sorry, let me move my shipping supplies out of the way. I got some here. You can see more on the side. This is our ram's horn tank, but this is for food, not for selling. We did have a pH shift in this tank as well. There's no light on this tank. It gets plenty of ambient light from the, you know, outside here. And every now and then I'll throw a plant or two in there, and they like to eat those. As you can see, they're hanging from there, eating the floating plants. But they eat them until they're gone. As you see, no plants in there. So yeah, this is mainly just a grow out tank for ram's horn and pond snails. So right now there's currently way more ram's horn snails in there. We're slowly getting rid of the ram's horn snails and replacing them with pond snails. So yeah, that's a process. It takes a long time. But when you feed the pea puffers, you want to go for the smallest ones. So snails like this right here, these little guys right here, these, because they have an easier time getting those out of the shells. These bigger ones though, you'll see here, and some of these bigger ones, if you want to continue to grow them out, then you want to keep those, because those are what's going to be laying your eggs for you. And you'll see back there, that's just a cluster of snails, and that's where I pull from to feed the puffers, is back on those clusters. Those clusters is the easiest way to grab them. And again, we had to balance out the pH and everything in here. So this is also argonite sand in here, and then underneath it, or mixed in with it, is the black diamond blastic sand. And then of course I balance out the pH using KH buffers or carbonate salts. So yeah, so I recommend that if you're going to keep any pea puffers. Now here's a cute little tank. This is actually a saltwater tank. This saltwater tank here, as you can see, has brine shrimp, or Artemia, however you want to say it. It took us a while to try to figure out how to grow these guys from babies, because they kept dying off left and right, and some of them are pretty big. This one right here is pretty big. But yeah, they just kept dying off. So we have a heater in there, we have water movement in there to keep the water cycled, and we feed them spirulina, so they are gut loaded with some really good nutrients in there. We have a light rock right here, and that stays on 24/7. They really like that. But the problem was the heater. So our house stays about 72 to 76 degrees all the time. That heater was basically cooking the brine shrimp. So make sure you keep the brine shrimp temperatures somewhere around 78. They like a little bit cooler, but 78 will keep them alive. As you can see, this is 2 to 3 weeks in, and they are already tripled in size from the babies that we got from the brine shrimp hatchery, which I will do a review on that later. So yeah, so that is the brine shrimp tank. And again, no light, nothing like that, just salt water, which we have to balance out and keep at a steady salinity of at least 1. I make sure to keep it at the same salinity you would keep a saltwater tank, since that's where they're technically found at. And then of course, if you look on the side, there's a temperature gauge. I don't really use that, but I use it as a monitor. So one finger above, if it's dropped, then I know I need to add water, and that'll keep the salinity at its current stable 1.26 or whatever it is that I have it at. But yeah, so salt doesn't disappear, but water does, so you have to replace the water constantly. So that's why I have that as an indicator of when I need to add more water to keep the salinity stable. So that's the tanks here in this part of the house, and that's what we have here in this part of our house. We've already went over the 75-gallon tank here, and we already went over the 40-gallon tank underneath the 55-inch TV. All right, you see that there. Potentially going to have some updates done to this tank here, mainly at separating out the male and female guppies. Who knows? But we're thinking about making some updates to this so that it makes it a little bit easier on us in the future. But yeah, so now let's continue on to our last 3 tanks here in the fish room. So one other thing I'd like to point out is that in a lot of people's fish rooms, they have problems with humidity, so they end up having to buy dehumidifiers. So how do you know what your humidity is? Well, there's an easy way to figure that out, and you'll need to get a humidity meter. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So you'll see here that this actually measures the humidity in the room. Now, we don't actually have a problem with humidity here at all. With all these fish tanks, we control the evaporation with lids quite a bit, but if you don't like lids, or if you have more open water sources in there that are contributing to that, then you may see these levels jump to humid. So right now it's in the high comfort zone, and that's where we like to keep it. But if we ever do have a problem with humidity, we'll just buy a dehumidifier to lower those humidity levels. So that's one thing that you can do to measure your humidity, is just keep one of those in your fish room or around all your fish tanks, and it'll be an easy way to judge whether or not you have too much water in the air. Alright, now it's time to take a look at the last 3 tanks in our fish room. Now these 3 tanks belong to our kids, so we're going to take a look at the oldest, middle, and the last. So let's take a look at our oldest boy's aquarium, and then we'll go in order. Alright, so here is his. This one here has 2 mystery snails, cherry barbs, and then a beautiful male. I don't know if you see him there. Beautiful male dwarf cichlid. So German blue ram. He is gorgeous, isn't he? He does really well in there. He actually helps keep the snail population down. You'll see empty shells all over the place. But you can see this snail right here is the eater. That one's not so much, but some of them don't grow as fast. You got some crypt in here, some anacharis, some other plants in there, but yeah, so this is his tank here. Okay. We got the light raised. As you can see, there's a shelf, and the light is hanging from the shelf there. He uses both a sponge filter and the hang on the back filter here. Alright, this is my middle boy's tank. He's got a beta in here. Now this is going to go through some changes as well. Light is also hanging from a rack above. This one has the same setup for all 3 of them. He's got some mystery snails in here, some purple ones. There's a little bit purple one there. That's a narrow-eyed snail. I don't know where the other one is. Nope, he's right up here. Alright. Now one thing I've learned about the purple mystery snails is that they take forever to grow. So they are some of the slowest growing snails in the mystery snail group for some reason. We don't know why. But yeah, so he's got some stuff. We made some changes here to his tank because it was crowded with plants and it was crowded with guppies. So this tank will be losing the guppies and getting some tetras that are safe with the betas. So we'll take a look at that later. All right, but that's what his tank is here. Okay, now let's go look at the last one here that belongs to my daughter. All right, so this is our daughter's fish tank. And as you can see, every tank we have, pothos growing out of every single tank. The lights hanging up like they are is what helps allow the pothos to grow. But keep in mind that you should never have your light directly on top unless you are growing highlight plants, and even then pulling it away seems to be a lot better. We've learned it keeps algae growth down, but the plants just, they thrive. As you can see here, the Rotala, this started out as 3 stems, and as you can see there's way more in here. That started out back there teeny tiny, but as you can see it's grown quite a bit. She's got crypt in here as well, Anubias in here, Java moss. This tank's thriving pretty good as well. Now this one also is going to be losing the guppies that are in here. So the endlers you'll see here, he seems to think that my finger is something. And it's going to be getting some tetras also, but some different tetras compared to my middle boy. And in this one here, she has the brown snails. So you'll see here that that one's the brown snail. So it's the dark shell with stripes and the black foot. She's got 2 of those and a narrow snail and some ghost shrimp in here. Let's see. But yeah, so that is my daughter's tank. All right, so that is the tour of our fish room here at NoobAquatics. Now keep in mind, our kids do have a tank each, but unfortunately I am the one that does do all the maintenance on it. When they get a little bit older, they will help a lot more. Right now they do things like move some buckets for me, throw some plants away after the trimmings if they're dying, stuff like that, small things. My older boy, he actually will help actually clean out the tank and filters and stuff like that every now and then, but most of the time it's me doing most of the maintenance on those tanks. But when they're 14, they'll be doing it all by themselves. I'll be there watching and their assistant. But yeah, so that is our fish room there, and like I said, it's a work in progress. Nobody's fish room is ever 100% perfect, ever. There are things that happen all the time, problems that happen all the time, cloudiness. So depending on the type of filtration, the type of media that you keep in your basket will depend on whether or not your water is crystal clear, all sorts of stuff. But keep in mind that clear water doesn't necessarily mean that it's perfect. It may be clear water but high in nitrates. I mean, there's so many different things. The color of the water normally doesn't mean a problem. It's mostly just an aesthetic thing. So whether or not you like to see that clear water or cloudy water or brown water, it's up to you. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really hurt the fish. So I mean, you'll see here in a couple of our tanks, which I'll show you, some of them's a little cloudy, and it's mainly because of the food. When you feed certain types of food, since we feed a varied diet, when I say varied, I mean a varied diet. We don't just give them one flake food. We have 13 different types of flake food when we feed that. We have 12 different types of pellets, that type of thing. And here's the other tip. Don't expect your food to stay, not really healthy, stay, what's the word I'm looking for? Preserved really well if you don't take action. So if you buy a large thing of fish food, pull a little bit out that'll last you for a month or 2 and put the rest in your freezer, and that'll keep the the nutrient levels of your food in pristine condition. So we bought a lot of food, but most of it is in our freezer. And if you need to buy large quantities of food, just buy a small deep freezer, keep it outside or wherever, and you can just freeze it that way. But yeah, so we buy food from many different places. We feed frozen foods. We give live foods such as live blackworms, feeder guppies, brine shrimp, live brine shrimp, which you've seen here with the fish room tour. And the small ones we'll give to the babies, and we'll grow out the small ones into bigger ones to feed to some of the bigger fish. So make sure that you're giving them a well-fed diet so that they have a variety to choose from. And don't forget to add in things like nutrients and stuff like that if your fish food is lacking. So some of the nutrients you can add would be like Seachem Nourish, Vitachem, that type of thing. So there's a lot of them out there. Just make sure that you're doing it the right way and not overdosing your fish with stuff. But we'll go over that again later. I may throw up a video on what you can do to increase the nutritional value of your food and how to do it. So I know I've seen videos that online, so it may just be a repetitive of what some of these people out there have done, but we do it as well because we want our fish to maintain a healthy lifestyle just like us, as close as we can. We don't really give them organic food like we eat, but we do try to make sure that they are healthy. So like I said, sometimes the water gets a little bit cloudy. You can see this is pretty clear here, but sometimes that cloudiness is not due into the water. So if you look up here, you'll see that the glass is a little cloudy. So whenever I change the water out tomorrow, I'll clean this up All right, and it'll be sparkling clean, and this may not look as cloudy. So it may not always be the water. A lot of times it can be even just the glass here on the front that's cloudy. This one down here is cloudy because it just has way too many fish in it. This one down here, as you can see, it's very clear if you hold it at this angle. Up here you got some cloudiness, so you should clean your glass lids constantly. All right, otherwise it may look cloudy in your tank. These right here only run on sponge filters, so the chances that they're going to be cloudy out there is pretty good. Sponge filters, they're really good at filtering out nitrogen or nitrites and ammonia and that type of thing, and keeping the water safe for the fish, but not very good at cleaning out cloudiness. So highly porous sponge filters like we have don't really do much for the cloudiness, which is no big deal. It doesn't hurt the fish. The levels in the tanks are great, so that's not something we're worried about. But yeah, like I said, thanks for taking the tour with us here at NoobAquatics, and I hope you have a great day.